Hello, purpose-driven travelers. What is up? I am here with an awesome video today and just want to tell you a little bit about what it is all about. So I was recently able to stay in an eco-friendly accommodation in Atlanta, Georgia in the United States, and I was fortunate enough to actually be able to interview the owner of this Airbnb. So the Airbnb is super awesome. It is two shipping containers that have been upcycled into these really cute, super unique accommodations. And yeah, so I got to chat with the owner and just kind of ask her some questions and dive into some awesome conversation. Her name is Adele, and I learned so much from talking to her. We were able to chat about kind of the mission and the story behind why she created these unique accommodations and what makes them eco-friendly. We also chatted about the coffee that they provide and kind of the story behind the coffee that they provide, and she kind of delved into the history of some of the challenges that women faced in Peru in the coffee industry, because that is where their fair trade coffee comes from. We also chatted about why it might be more beneficial for the environment to stay, at a place like hers versus going to a larger, chain hotel that may not be taking eco-friendly initiatives. She chatted a little bit about how we're kind of conditioned to be good consumers, and also too a lot about artificial fragrances and why she has a no artificial fragrance policy. And she kind of delved further into, really why artificial fragrances can be detrimental to your health, and she provides a lot of great resources around that topic. So yeah, we just had an awesome conversation, and I want to also apologize too for my newbie video and interviewing skills. This was actually the very first time I had interviewed somebody, and so I promise I'm going to try and get my interviewing skills better over time, as well as my video skills. Also, to IGTV only allows me 10 minutes, so I will post the link to the longer full-length YouTube video where the whole video will be. So I hope you enjoy, and I will see you guys later.
Well, thank you for joining me, Adele. I appreciate it. I'm excited to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
So let's just get started. Can you just tell us a little bit about your eco-friendly shipping containers and kind of your mission behind them?
Yeah, there are 20 by 8-foot shipping containers, and we wanted to offer stays that were a little different and help people become a little bit more aware during their stays here. We got real tired of going into Airbnbs and hotels that sort of accosted us when we walked in the doors, where we just got blasted by plugins and Febreze, and where we just didn't, where fabrics were outgassing and the products were really noxious in terms of fragrances. So we wanted to offer something different. We're big believers in fair trade. We're big believers in organic products. We realize that that's not something that's really affordable for everyone, but we want to help create a market where it is, where every person is paid a living wage, and the people who pick cotton are paid fairly, where, they're people who are working with dyes aren't poisoned, where the earth isn't poisoned with pesticides and so on. So, consumers drive the market. And so we wanted to try to do our small part here with travel to create a situation where, where people are laying their heads down on the pillows or not breathing something that's outgassing, that's harming them, where they're realizing that they're also playing a part in this whole situation as consumers as well. So a bit of education was part of their stay. We're only marginally subtle about it, but wanted to make it pleasant, wanted to make people realize that when they walk in the door and they're not being slammed by these chemicals, they have a different kind of experience, when they're smelling essential oils instead of these petrochemicals and synthetic chemicals, that it affects their mood. And as they learn about these things, that they're not small things, they really do add up.
Right, for sure. So what can someone, I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but what can someone kind of expect if they were to, say, book a stay with you and maybe be staying in a shipping container for the first time?
Well, first of all, we have a no fragrance policy. And if somebody travels with essential oils, that's great, fine, no problem. But we're really pretty stringent about it because artificial fragrances stay, they linger. I mean, you see these ads, right? They drive me crazy. You see these ads for fabric softeners and detergents and so on that guarantee that the scent is going to last for weeks. Really? That's not a good thing, because we try to have different situations. Because if somebody comes wearing a fragrance and then that fragrance stays in one of our units for weeks, that translates to a lot of things. So like staying in someone's body forever, actually. So we try to avoid that. So somebody can expect walking in and finding neutral air, or if they notice any kind of a scent, because perhaps somebody has come and had some kind of fragrance, we try to counter that and neutralize it with essential oils. If they smell anything at all, it is going to be an organic plant-derived scent, period. It's going to be nothing but something that's made from plants, cold pressed. That's it. Everything that is in the unit is made in a fair trade way where people were paid a living wage as much as possible. We weren't able to accomplish that in every single thing that we purchased, but as much as possible. Much of what is in the unit is made, we created from upcycled materials. So it's salvaged materials in many cases. And many of the products are made, or that we offer, are organic and plant-based. So any of the fragrances in them are essential oils. So the dish soap, the hand soap, the hair products. And then we do offer, because people do enjoy having some fragrance available, we do offer kind of a little sampler. In the bathroom, we have little strips of craft paper so people can spray them on and sample them and use them while they're here. Some of them, they're kind of a range of priciness, but we offer places where people can buy them. Different kinds of fragrances that people can sample, and they do alter moods. We've got yoga mats that people can use. So those sorts of things. And then also some books that people can read to understand our philosophy and sink in a little deeper, do a deeper dive if they'd like.
Awesome. So, and I love that you mentioned the books, because I feel like, so I've stayed at 3 eco-friendly accommodations now, and I feel like every place I go, the people are really trying to inspire people and provide resources. So I really appreciated some of the resources you guys have provided and the books that were there. So that was really neat.
We also have, I forgot to mention a couple of things. We also provide organic fair trade teas, and not all fair trade teas are alike. We use Equal Exchange, which is a really, really good co-op. And then we also offer coffee, which is Cafe Femenino, and it's from Peru. And it's really, really delicious coffee, grown. And the women in Peru were not allowed to even have anything to do with the coffee growing industry at first, forever. There was a very high abuse, domestic violence rate there. It was at 40%. And women had no path forward. They were not allowed an education. They were not allowed to work in the coffee industry. An American couple went down there, and it's at first sounds a little white saviory, but they actually did the work and gave people a path forward to come into their own power. And these women now are involved in every aspect of the coffee industry, which is really cool. They grow it, they sell it, they roast it, every single aspect. It is their own. And the coffee is just absolutely fantastic. And what's really amazing about it is in Unit 1, we have a chair that we just happened to get, and then we couldn't figure out what kind of fabric we wanted on the back of it. And the person who made the chair on Etsy got in touch with me and said, well, we're out of the material for the back. which would you like, and sent me 3 options. And one of them was a coffee sack, a burlap bag for Cafe Femenino. We looked it up, found out what they did. This is how we discovered the coffee, and found out we could get it. So we really try to promote the coffee, and a lot of our guests have started to buy it. It is absolutely wonderful. Those kinds of things are really important to us. And just, using a French press instead of using a Keurig, and, disposing of all that plastic. You find a Keurig in so many Airbnbs. Those little things really do add up.
For sure. You said that was Cafe Femenino, correct?
Cafe Femenino.
Very nice. Okay, cool. And I love too that you're so passionate about the fragrance-free policies, because that is honestly, that's something I know little about. And I think it's, when you think of eco-friendly accommodations, it's easy to just kind of think of the products or the solar panels, but it's not as common to think about the fragrances, the smells.
Yeah.
How did you start? So how did you find an interest in that or start learning about that?
I used to run an organization years ago called Cause for Concern, kind of around. I got real interested in environmental work many moons ago. I remember going into a McDonald's back when I used to eat meat, and I'm vegan now, but it was, I remember going in and seeing a display in a McDonald's. They had fishnets on the ceiling, and the fishnets were full of styrofoam containers. It was really cute. It was really an beautiful aesthetic choice. I thought, God, and it was when all this plastic packaging was really, it was like in the early 80s. And this plastic packaging was really starting to take off. It was Styrofoam City. People were starting to criticize McDonald's for their packaging. I started this organization looking at consumerism and the environment. Once again, consumers drive the market. Looked at household products and what was in household products and cleaning products and so on, and got pretty horrified. And we started doing some research, and we found out that two McDonald's had like these incinerators in their parking lots called Archie McPuffs. And they were burning. We were fighting incineration at that time. We branched out into all sorts of areas, and these Archie McPuffs would just incinerate the styrofoam, and that was supposed to be okay. And the puffs of the smoke would go out their mouths. And so the more I learned, the more horrified I became. And so that going from household products, I got into understanding fragrances a lot. And I came to understand that a lot of these products, and cosmetics as well, and a lot of these products bioconcentrate and bioaccumulate in fatty tissues. And that causes often a synergistic effect. And it can cause a multi-generational effect when we're talking about breast milk, right? So, if a woman chooses to give birth and breastfeed her baby. So then we were finding out that fetuses were being born with these chemicals inside of them.
Wow.
Great news. So, people are like none the wiser. I mean, there's a book that Ralph Nader wrote years ago called Being Beautiful. And he looked at cosmetics, and he looked at household products and the regulatory agencies that control those two things. And how basically bureaucratically the left hand doesn't know what the right's doing. And it's horrendous how there are really high levels of ingredients allowed in one type of product that perhaps require only a warning label, and in another type of product, perhaps they only have to list the ingredients, right? And what it really boils down to is we are, as women in particular, are eating and absorbing these ingredients, like we're absorbing them through our skin and eating them in the case of lipstick. And it's just really, really insane. I mean, it's just bad. And fragrances are way up there on the list. So even in our welcome book, we encourage people to watch the film Stink. It's just called Stink. And it's about a young dad who lost his wife to breast cancer. I'm also a breast cancer survivor. which is ironic given the work I've done. But actually, this fellow's wife was also starting to look into ingredients and not use certain things and be really careful. She got breast cancer. She didn't make it. And he bought some pajamas for his daughters for Christmas to try to keep the Christmas tradition alive. His wife was really into Christmas, tried to keep things going, did a cross-country trip with his daughters, and just to try to heal from losing mom. They stopped at the malls of the Americas, and they went to Justice, the store Justice, which the girls really liked. He ordered them a pair of PJs each for Christmas. They opened up the pants, the pajamas, and they outgassed like crazy. You couldn't believe the way they smelled. He called the company and said, "What's up with this terrible, noxious odor that's coming off of these pajamas?" Nobody would answer any questions. He started doing this sort of Michael Moore investigative journalism via film about trying to find out what was going on. He couldn't get any answers. The film is phenomenal. I recommend everyone should watch it. And, really, these chemicals end up in fatty tissues. What are breasts? So ironically, his wife died of breast cancer. So, I mean, you look at all these pink ribbon campaigns, right? And so I used to teach, I'm a movement therapist, an expressive movement therapist. I used to teach a class called Moving Through Illness at the Lancaster Cancer Center. And so often there'd just be all this swag sitting out on this particular table with all these goodies, these candles and these pink ribbons and this and that, and all this cutesy breast cancer stuff. Most of it was made from all this foam and all these scented candles. All this stuff is like outgassing like crazy. I'd move it all before we started class because you're exercising. You don't want to be breathing in more of this stuff. And I talked to them incessantly about this. They didn't want to hear it. I used to go to all these big events like, Run for the Cure and, all these different huge, massive events where people wanted to come and get their little bags of goodies and all their swag and everything. So I would have a little table and I'd have all my information about how to prevent cancer by not using all these products and doing all these practices, and have all these alternatives available for people. I had my little bag together and information, right? Nobody wanted it. Everybody wanted all the toxic stuff.
Wow.
Denial is really convenient for a while.
Yeah. Do you think it's just a lack of knowledge or, yeah.
And blinders glued on people's faces.
Yeah.
We're all conditioned to be really good consumers.
For sure. Yeah. That brings up a lot of interesting topics and points. Lots of things to think
That
about.
was a loaded question.
Yeah, I appreciate it though. Do you find that most of the people who stay with you are pretty eco-conscious?
No. I'd say some are. I'd say, but they are kind of in the, maybe 10%. I mean, I haven't kept really tight track of it at all, but that's just kind of a gut guess. Maybe 10% of people are very grateful that, maybe it's a little higher, maybe 15. But there are people who are very grateful that we do what we do. And then once people get here and experience it, I think then that raises that number,
Yeah.
Once they experience it, then they're into it. It's like, don't knock until you've tried it, sort of, It's a novel thing for people. And then once they smell the shampoos and they experience the difference, then they realize that, oh, they don't want to go back, It's just like, almost like if somebody smoked for a lot of years, they've lost their sense of smell. And that's one thing that happens with fragrances, is that it actually does harm the olfactory capabilities. So you just don't have sensitivity to fragrance. And it takes a while for things to shift for you to really have that sensitivity to be able to detect odors. It is terrible. But yeah, I think that at first, often people come here because it's a novel thing. and they want to check it out.
Sure. And I think that it's very inspiring to go to an eco-friendly accommodation, probably, like you mentioned, even if somebody may not be eco-conscious, because I feel like sometimes people just don't know, like even me, like I was raised pretty not aware about an eco-friendly lifestyle. It's just something I've started to do within the past couple of years. And so I think it's great to have eco-friendly accommodations and hopefully maybe inspire some sustainability in people's lives.
Right. Yeah, I think most people, are clueless because, it's par for the course.
Mm-hmm.
Very unusual to be aware of these things.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that travelers can have an impact on climate change by making intentional choices to travel more sustainably?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think every choice we make has impact. It might seem small, but, many molehills make a mountain.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So if somebody were to book a stay with you, can you give some reasons why that might be better for the environment or the community rather than booking, let's say, a larger chain hotel that may not be taking eco-friendly initiatives?
Our containers are refillable, so you're not going to get a lot of plastic waste. We compost our coffee and as much as possible, we wash our laundry with friendly, plant-based detergent. Sometimes we use eco nuts, which are basically seeds. The rest of the time, it's all organic plant-based detergent, and we use hydrogen peroxide for bleach. As opposed to chlorine, which is typically used in hotels, and a lot of chemicals. With our COVID protocol, we use hydrogen peroxide and rubbing alcohol, as opposed to a laundry list of chemicals that hotels use. Also, from the human side, we pay our cleaner a living wage. A decent living wage. Everything all the way down to the paints that we use, everything, we just try to look all the way from sourcing to production through use to disposal. We recycle. Even, the bedding is organic and fair trade. You're just not going to find that at a hotel.
Right.
So your choices have an impact. They make a difference. They absolutely do. And it's, and I just don't think that, everybody needs employment and everybody, I think that we can encourage hotels to do better, but they're not.
Do you have any tips on kind of how to travel more sustainably other than eco-friendly accommodations at all?
I'm a big fan of electric cars. We do have a place where folks can plug their electric cars in here. That's one. Mode of transportation is big. I'm also a fan of trains. I think that, in terms, simple things like bring a water bottle with you.
Sure.
That you can fill up, bring, a reusable coffee cup with you. In COVID, it's difficult, obviously. And a lot of places just aren't doing that. But once we get out of this, think about those things, because that's something that I've kicked myself for a bunch of times where I have been traveling and I've forgotten those things. And then I've gotten into the disposable world. And that's not so good. We just had a guest come who did some cooking, and she asked for some to-go containers, and we didn't have those in the units before, and we're putting them out there so people can have those. She was taking some food over to her son, and So that's helpful to have some leftover containers, those kinds of things. And those are things you can take with you if you're going to be at an Airbnb stay. If the Airbnb doesn't have it, ask if they have them. Those are some things I'm thinking about. And I know restaurants often won't let you carry them in. And just encouraging restaurants you go to use materials which are compostable.
Sure.
Use your voice. You know, somebody's handing you a whole bunch of styrofoam. Encourage them to use better materials, because they, you know, establishments listen to customers. Don't be silent. If it bothers you, and it should, say something. Because once a few people say something, they usually do make changes.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, definitely. What other resources would you suggest to learn about, living kind of fragrance free?
Being Beautiful is great. You can still find it. It's old, but it's really, really good. Stink really covers it so well. Environmental Working Group is a really good organization. I would recommend them. And also the Breast Cancer Fund. Even if you don't have breast cancer, they really do a lot of research, and they have their finger on the pulse of what's going on. Those two organizations really do a lot. And in terms of, I would just look for alternatives to pesticides as much as possible as well. I would recommend that. We use, for instance, in the units, we use boric acid and sugar and water, because in the South, we all have roach problems. You know, I mean, everyone does, they're everywhere. So simple solutions like that. There's an organization, it's called Beyond Pesticides. They're a really good resource as well. So those are my top picks for folks.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely have to check some of those out for sure. I think that is everything for now. And what is the best place to connect with you and book a stay with your unique eco-friendly containers?
We are on Airbnb. We are on Instagram, Tiny Eco ATL. We also have a Facebook page, which is also Tiny Eco ATL.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it very much. It was great talking to you and learning from you.
Great. Good luck on your endeavors. Yeah. I'm glad you exist. I think it's really important that there's a platform out there for folks to find more ethical ways to travel.
Yes. And I feel it's very, as I'm finding and growing on this journey, I'm finding that in the US, it's pretty difficult to find eco-friendly accommodations. There are, a few websites, but there's not much listed on them. Pretty much everything is listed outside of the United States for eco-friendly accommodation.
It's true. There's not much here. So it's really great that you're building this platform. Yeah. Thanks for your work.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I know that was kind of a longer video to watch, but we really appreciate it. And I just want to let you know I have linked all the resources that Adele mentioned in the description below, and also where you can find Adele and book a stay at her eco-friendly shipping containers. You can visit Tiny Eco ATL on Instagram to book a stay with them, and also you can visit Purpose Driven Traveler on Instagram, my Instagram, for more eco-friendly accommodation ideas and also for responsible travel tips. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.